Hi, I'm Nadine Thornhill, sexuality educator, and today I want to talk to you about sex positivity. So sex positivity is, you could call it a philosophy or a framework. It's just a way of looking at sex, and I want to talk about it today because it really is the foundation for all of the work that I do and how I approach my work. There's actually a lot to sex positivity. It's a lot more than I can get into in one video without putting you all to sleep. So this is just going to be the basics. We're really just scratching the surface. But I am going to link to a couple of articles in the description box below, so if you want to do more reading or get into it a little bit deeper, that's the place to go. Sex positivity is sort of a specific way of looking at sex and sexuality and all of the related experiences and expressions we have around that as human beings. And in order to talk about sex positivity, I need to talk first about a different philosophy or perspective that's often called sex negativity. Sex negativity is a belief that sex and sexuality are inherently bad. That at its core, sex and sexual expression and sexual experiences and anything related to that is dangerous, that it will corrupt us in some way, or that it will diminish us. It will make us less somehow. Sex negativity isn't about never having sex or saying that every type of sex is unacceptable, but its priorities are very much rooted in protecting ourselves and protecting others from this ever-present danger that sex presents, and oftentimes it seeks to do that by trying to determine the very specific ways in which sex and sexuality and sexual expression are safe and okay and acceptable. Many people will say that North America is rooted in a sex-negative tradition, or that we come from a sex-negative culture. And many people also feel that sex negativity is restrictive in a lot of ways. So here are just a few examples. So when it comes to sex itself, there's usually a specific type of sex between specific types of people that are held up as the ideal. So here in North America, that's usually sex between people who are heterosexual, monogamous, of a certain age, and ideally married. Often in a sex-negative culture, the farther away people's sexual desires or personal expressions stray from that ideal, the more that they're marginalized or stigmatized. Sex negativity often promotes certain forms of discrimination. For example, in North America, there's a lot of ageism around sexuality. People who are elderly, children, and younger teenagers are generally expected not to have any sexual feelings, sexual expression, or interest in sexuality whatsoever. Meanwhile, we expect that all young and middle adults should be having sex, they should be having sex with a partner, and they should be having that sex on a regular basis. Not too much, not too little, certainly not at all, a regular basis. We do understand and accept that sexuality can be very alluring and compelling, and we will design these highly artificial representations of sexual expression that are very narrow and that are very limited, and we will use that content often to sell things, often things that actually have nothing to do with sexuality whatsoever, and we're okay with it because it's making us money. At the same time, we're taught that it's highly taboo to talk about our actual bodies or to be open about our actual sexual feelings or experiences. And in a sex-negative culture, when something bad or unpleasant does happen to you as the result of some sort of sexual activity, like, for example, you get an STI, instead of reacting the way we normally would when someone gets sick and just saying, "Oh man, that's too bad, I'm really sorry you don't feel well," we have this judgmental reaction like, well, you had sex, sex is bad, and so are you, and that's why this happened to you. I would definitely say that growing up, a lot of the messages and lessons I got around sexuality were pretty sex negative. I came of age in the 80s, and this was when the AIDS epidemic first hit, and people were pretty freaked out. So I heard some highly negative things about sex, and they definitely affected the way that I thought about sex and the way that I engaged with sex in my life. But then, years ago, when I started working at Planned Parenthood in Ottawa, I was introduced to the concept of sex positivity, and that kind of changed everything. Now, I was in a training, and when the facilitator first mentioned the term, to me it sounded like, oh, well, this philosophy is about having lots of sex and how more sex is better than less sex and all sex is great and wonderful. But the facilitator gave us an article to read by another sex educator, Charlie Glickman, who I've mentioned before, and I'm going to post a link to that full article in the description box so you can read it. But I just wanted to read for you right now the part that really resonated for me. Try to imagine the following world. Accurate information about food is freely available and exists for all ages in appropriate ways. Talking about what sorts of foods you like and negotiating with a dinner partner is a simple and relaxed experience. Different preferences, whether personal or cultural, are important for the information they provide and are no more or less important than hair color or family history unless people are trying to figure out what to eat together. Some people prefer to eat with the same person indefinitely. Others prefer to eat in a group, and still others eat with a variety of partners as the mood suits them, and nobody is ever forced to eat anything or with anyone. Each person is an expert in their desires and needs around food, and their choices are respected. Now go back through that last paragraph and substitute sex for food and have sex for eat. How much more difficult is this world to imagine? How much more work would it take to make this happen? In the training, our facilitator actually made us go back and read that paragraph and substitute sex and have sex. And when we did that, my mind was sort of simultaneously blown, and yet I felt completely at peace all of a sudden. I thought, yes, looking at sex in this way makes so much sense for me. And this is the way for me moving forward. I also love the food analogy, and I tend to use a lot of food for sex analogies in my own work, and I think that's probably why. So I've been working as a sexuality educator for almost a dozen years now, and so many of the questions and concerns that I hear from people basically boil down to, am I normal or is my child normal? And that's really understandable coming from a sex negative culture, because sex negativity basically tells us that there is a normal, and that if we can just figure out what the normal is, everything around sex and sexuality will be okay, and that's the space in which we're safe. That normal is safe, and that normal is the same for everybody. As a sex positive educator, I am not concerned with whether anyone is normal. Actually, I don't believe that there is a normal. What I am concerned with when someone comes to see me is, are you okay? Because I do believe that there is at least the potential for everyone to be okay and even happy in their sexuality. And so that's my focus. What do you need? What do I need? What do we each need to be okay? And I also believe that everyone's okay is their own, so that what's okay for me sexually is probably not going to be exactly like what's okay for you sexually. And as a sex positive educator, I just try to accept that there are all sorts of different sexual expressions and experiences. And there's so much more to say about sex positivity, and I'm sure I will be talking about it a lot. I use the term sex positive and sex positivity constantly in my work, but I just wanted to do this sort of little introductory 101 type video so that when I say those words, you have some idea of what I mean. I'm curious, what are some of your beliefs and philosophies about sex? Like, where did you learn about sex? Who influenced you? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, then you can give it a thumbs up. You can also share it with someone. I would love that. And if you don't want to miss any videos, then you can click the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. All right, I will be back at you with another video on Friday. Until then, enjoy your week, and I will see you soon. Bye. Got kids? Check out my latest video to find out the 10 things I want you to tell them about sex. And click the green subscribe button. You won't miss a moment of sex-positive fun.